This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
On a Tuesday at 2 o'clock, we always focus on
Tech Tuesday.
That's right. Artificial intelligence is back in the conversation. And as you know, AI is revolutionizing nearly every industry. Professional psychology and psychotherapy are no exception. So as AI-powered tools become more integrated into mental health spaces, they bring both exciting possibilities and, of course, some ethical concerns with them. While some fear that AI may replace human therapists, many argue, and experts themselves say that it's more likely to enhance and streamline mental health care, from automating administrative tasks to providing insights from vast psychological research databases. For example, say AI is assisting in diagnosing mental health conditions by analyzing speech patterns and facial expressions. That could make things relatively easier for the psychologist or psychiatrist. However, an increasing reliance on AI raises critical questions. How do we share and use these AI tools? How do we ensure AI tools align with ethical standards? Can AI truly understand human emotions? So let's explore this AI current and future impact on psychology and psychotherapy and the ethical dilemmas it may present, particularly in South Africa and Africa, around the regulatory frameworks that are being shaped for its use, with AI expert Johan Steen, who's on the line with us. Hi, Johan. It's good to talk to you.
Pabi, lovely, and it's not that warm outside, by the way.
Is
but
it not?
Lovely to speak with you again. No, it's nice and cool and cloudy. Well, at least where I live near Pretoria.
Ah, I see. All right. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's different everywhere.
Yes.
So let's talk about this, because this is quite fascinating, right? I open my AI chat platform. I've got 3 of them on my phone, and one of them offers me an AI therapist. And I thought to myself, wow, we've come a long way with the technology, but does this actually work? So let's talk about how AI is currently being used in professional psychology and psychotherapy. What are the biggest and best contributions, Johan?
Firstly, well, thanks for having me. And also, it's a hugely relevant topic, Pabi. I think so many people are struggling one way or another when it comes to their mental health. It's almost like a silent scourge. We don't talk to each other about it. Most of us are struggling. Firstly, I want to tell you, a few years ago, I spent a number of sessions with a fantastic psychotherapist who saved my life. I had to deal with my mother's death from cancer.
Yes.
I had to deal with a very bad divorce, adopting a child, a number of things. And I recommend anyone that I know to go to a good psychotherapist, because they can save your life. And this man saves my life. So I'm very pro this. But then the question is, can technology do some of the things that they can do? And what are the limits? So, look, what I always say, and I had the same session with a number of physiotherapists recently, if you're running a practice, a medical practice, there are a lot of administrative tasks, scheduling meetings, cancelling meetings, rescheduling meetings, billing, collecting money, claiming for medical aids, those kind of things. Those things keep you away from the things that you are an expert in and the things that make you money. Those administrative tasks are highly automatable, so that as a professional, you can focus on the things that help people and also the things that make you money. So the first place to start, I think, Pabi, in this conversation is, can that lower level of administrative back office tasks be automated? Absolutely, through a number of apps, Microsoft and AWS, and a number of apps that we're already using. But my view is, I think there are a number of really interesting kind of chatbot therapists that can help you with advice, healthcare advice, sexual health advice, career advice, and the like. Absolutely. But in my experience, when it comes to looking that human in the eye and opening up the depths of your soul, desperate for help, I do not see AI replacing that ever, in my view. But yes, that human connection, that person with empathy and expertise to take your hand and help you through a very difficult process that might be months therapy, I do not see technology replacing that.
I mean, to a degree, I see your point, because, you know, issues that you've mentioned of grief, of loss, of and it's a double grief, that, right? Because many people say divorce is like a death.
Yeah.
You know, you almost need somebody who'd be able to look you in the eye, who'd be able to sense when you're not necessarily telling all of the truth and things of that nature. But for example, I just tried this wellness therapist on one of my chat boxes, and I said, I'm struggling to stop drinking energy drinks. And they gave me, 12 different ways to take accountability, explore alternatives, prioritize sleep, things of that nature. So could it be on a sliding scale of what people perhaps need that the AI can provide versus, our more traditional ways of counseling and therapy?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I think maybe we should distinguish psychological advice from psychological therapy.
Okay.
There are amazing platforms that can give you healthcare advice, financial advice, and those things are, firstly, it's accessible. Many of them are free because, let's face it, a good therapist will cost you a heck of a lot of money. Most people cannot afford it. But if I'm just wondering about something, or I think my girlfriend is cheating on me, how should I deal with it? What is the best way to approach her in a responsible way? My boss is horrible with me. I'm worried about my finances. Many, even healthcare, like I've got this thing on my skin that's growing. Yes, you need a doctor, but maybe you can ask the AI. So when it comes to psychotherapy and psychological, the area of that, when it comes to advice, call it baseline advice.
Yes.
There are a multitude of platforms that can absolutely help you. And maybe that is the place to start. Because it's often not something you want to ask a good friend or a partner or a parent. It is very kind of intimate. It's sometimes private. It's often quite embarrassing.
Sure.
That the AI then makes it a lot easier. I often use ChatGPT's app on my phone, the 4.0 app, and I ask it questions. Oh my word, I educate myself every day. Like for instance, I saw a dove landing here eating. I love putting out seeds. My son keeps on telling me I'm getting very old because I'm also calling the doves names now. They all have names. But I take a picture of the dove and I say, identify the dove and tell me about their breeding patterns and their dietary patterns, etc. But I also ask it healthcare advice. But what I do like about these platforms, it'll always end with a bit of a thing that says you should still consult your doctor.
Yes.
But when I have something that needs psychological help, initially, definitely a chatbot can help you. But then there comes a time when maybe the chatbot has kind of almost exerted all its efforts and you need therapy. And therapy, especially if you think of Jungian psychology, where the therapists take you through their expert guidance, and it's not hypnosis, but through showing you certain images or making you think of certain things. They take you back to that place of pain. It could be as severe as childhood abuse, rape, and many other forms of trauma. I don't know if an AI can do that. And what I like about the therapist I went to, when we started our sessions, he said to me, Johan, it doesn't matter how severe the problem or not. Even if it is a girlfriend dropped me when I was 6, or it is my wife cheated on me for years and I didn't know. The trauma is important. And then you get to that root and you need expert human advice to take you to that root. The other thing I've learned over the years is that the symptoms or the results of that trauma is often not clearly connected to that trauma. So, for instance, you might be extremely insecure, self-doubting, hating and self-loathing, and mistrusting people. Sometimes the root experience of that expression is not always clearly related to the symptoms. And there again, I think an experienced and empathetical, non-judgmental therapist can help you. But maybe just to conclude, I think some of the, let's call it baseline help, I think an AI can help you. But when it comes to I'm in deep trauma, I think I'm going to kill myself, I hate myself, I've got an eating disorder, I don't want to speak to a chatbot. I want a human to help me.
Yeah. So, as far as I understand, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, the AI is learning from what there is across the internet, and there might also be a human who's giving it intel or programming it or teaching it. So tell me where this psychological advice is coming from, if the AI is saying that it's a wellness coach or a counselor.
Yeah, look, specifically these large language models, and there are thousands of them these days. A lot of them we don't even know about. We think it's just ChatGPT or Gemini. There are hundreds and thousands of them. They learn from the internet. And that's not a bad thing, but there are problems, which I'll get to now. But if I say, for instance, every night for the last 2 weeks, I've been dreaming this horrible dream about falling off a building, and I wake up in cold sweats, and what does it mean? The AI can probably give you some very interesting options. So it could mean a sense of out of control. I'm worried about my job. I'm worried that my partner is cheating on me. I'm worried that my children is doing things that I don't know about. So, because psychology, in my limited view, has a lot to do with metaphor. It's like dreaming. Often we dream about something so ridiculous. Like I'm flying in a pink plane with yellow ribbons and it's falling.
Yes.
A good psychologist will interpret that from an archetype. And Jung spoke a lot about archetypes. The visions we see, the dreams we dream is often a symbol of something else. So these platforms learn from medical literature, from academic literature, from what's out there on the internet, and that needs a little asterisk because there's a lot of nonsense on the internet as well.
True.
So my advice to people would be when they use these platforms, don't lose your common sense. Don't just take at face value what they're saying. Another big problem, Pabi, potentially is biases in these data sets, which is a problem across all AI conversations. Just because of my gender or my sexual orientation or my ethnicity, it could give me supposed answers and advice that is actually not relevant to me. It could, for instance, say that just because I'm a woman, a young woman, the underlying advice can be stop being so hormonal and get a grip of yourself. That is not good advice because maybe a bunch of guys programmed that system. Use these platforms. They get their information from all over the internet, and anyone who's played on the internet will know there's a lot of good stuff and there's a lot of nonsense. Use your common sense, and it's always good to then check with a professional if you need to. A great example, Pabi, I can use. I work with a university here in Pretoria. They created a mobile app for their students. I think a lot of universities are doing it.
Right.
And this was such a wonderful thing that they did. The students can interact on the app and their data and details remain anonymous unless they want to change it. So they can ask sexual health questions, financial health questions, academic questions, questions about sleep and learning. And then if they feel that they need help, they can then review who they are on their own accord and book with a counselor at the university. But what is amazing is how the university is using this data, even though they don't know who the individuals are. But what they told me is you can, for instance, see in that few weeks before the exams, how the queries around stress, sleep, alcohol abuse, etc. pick up. Certain seasons of the year also does that. Like, for instance, Valentine's Day. We're almost there. Or did I miss it? No, we're almost there. That brings up a lot of questions around, can I be loved? Who will ever love me, etc. And then the university can use that data, even though it's anonymized, to actually send out training and help for the student body. There are so many benefits. But again, when it's that student that probably or possibly have been sexually abused or whatever, he or she needs a human to help them through that. So don't trust all the data of these platforms. It can be very helpful, but you have to use your intellect and your common sense and not just take it all at face value.
It's also a relationship thing, right? If you have somebody who you're accountable to once or twice a week to go and see, I doubt the AI, unless I'm very far behind, Johan, will give you a ping and say it's time for our therapy session. Perhaps that does exist, but there is something about having a human to be accountable to.
You're so right. Look, if it's a AI and I'm not in the mood, I will just ignore it. And remember, most of us are almost never in the mood for therapy because it's hard work. It takes you back to that memory that you need to be healed from. I can't tell you how many times when I went to that therapist the night before or the morning before, I wanted to cancel and lie and say I'm sick or my car's broken or whatever, because everything in your system wants to avoid that discomfort of feeling those feelings again that helps you connect with it and releases the pain. It helps to pay for a counselor. And again, it's very expensive and most people in our country can't do it. But at least if you're paying, you will probably be less reluctant than just cancelling it because it's costing you money. But that human element, and I often say this, Pabi, no AI, no technology will take basic human needs, connection, face-to-face interaction. I want you to shake my hand. I want you to show me empathy. We have had that need for thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of years. I cannot see how a chatbot can replace that. Sometimes, it's like when you have coffee with a friend and you open up your heart. Sometimes you just want that friend to listen, even if he or she doesn't have much advice. I just need an ear, a person who is non-judgmental, so that I can blurb it all out. That need will never change, and that need will probably never be fulfilled by technology.
We're talking about the rise in AI therapy. Is it revolutionary and something we should just fall in line for, or is it important to look at some of the risks, some of the spaces that even the technology can't touch? From a very humanistic point of view, AI expert Johan Steyn is joining us on the line to talk about this revolutionizing of the psychotherapy and psychology industry. Let's just have a quick listen to a voice note on 083-303-7093.
Hey, sister. Yes, great conversation about can AI substitute a therapist. I actually told my therapist 3 years ago that I think AI is going to be able to substitute him. And he just laughed and was a little bit offended, of course. But the reason I said that is for two main reasons. In therapy, often one of the main causes of healing is that you verbalize something and you hear yourself saying it. And then suddenly it completely shifts. This unspoken feeling or assumption that you had, once you verbalize it, it becomes something else. And it doesn't really matter who you verbalize it to, as long as the right questions make you verbalize it. And AI can definitely do that. And the other point is that therapists, psychologists, they follow different schools. So you've got Jungian, Gestalt, Freudian, etc. And each of these schools has methods. And you can teach the rules of those methods to the AI. Absolutely. I'm 100% convinced. Is a live therapist better than an AI therapist? Probably, possibly, in most or many situations. But can an AI therapist be better than no therapy? I'm 100% convinced that it can.
There it is. There it is. Better than nothing at all.
Absolutely.
Having an AI connection will be there. I mean, going back to one of my previous questions was about what is informing the AI. And I think he's coming from that point of view as well, saying, look, which methodology is your AI using? And that's very important. And then the idea of having the right cues or the right questions to get you to verbalize and make those connections in your mind yourself, Johan.
Look, so many good comments from that caller, and I commend them. And the main point for me is better to have an AI counselor or therapist than nothing at all. Absolutely, because that AI is probably smarter than your mother or your brother or your colleague, because it has access to a world's worth of intellectual knowledge about this. We all know that, our psyches are programmed that by speaking and verbalizing, we often deal with a lot of our problems. I've seen it, and probably you probably as well, that I'm struggling with something, I can't find the answer. Then I'm having a coffee or a beer with a mate. And as I'm chatting, some of the answers I need pops up in my head. Because this is also the thing that, as far as I understand for psychotherapy, is that a lot of the answers are in you already, but it's blocked because of fear, past experiences, self-doubt. But once you start chatting and maybe speaking to an intelligent chatbot, and there are some interesting ones and intelligent ones, as I chat to that thing, despite the advice it gives me, I actually start realizing maybe I should have said that, or maybe this is the wrong way to think about that. How often have you and I not experienced that with speaking with a friend or a family member? Absolutely. If you don't have access to a therapist, if you don't have the money for it, it's better to speak to an AI with the common sense in the background than to suffer on your own. And I think that's the other thing I want to bring in. A lot of people think they have to suffer. It's just part of life, psychologically. I've been done in, I'm hurt, I've been abused as a child, or I've been cheated on. And that's just that. And be happy for what you've got. Stop moaning about life. You used to put food to eat. No, we are made and created to be whole and healthy beings. And the reason for that is because we have gifts that others need. And if you are not whole within yourself, you can't give the world the gifts that you have. And I often think about that scripture, Pabi, to whom much is given, much is expected from. People are waiting for your light to enlighten their darkness. And you can't do it if you're sitting in darkness yourself. But the point still is that there are complexities in how our souls work that a therapist through multiple sessions probably need to dig into. That bottom line AI system, as beneficial as it could be, will probably never get to, in my view, as somebody whose life was saved by a human who gave me therapy.
Much understood. Let's get into more of your experiences of therapy. Have you tried any of the AI therapy, therapist, wellness coaches, the bots that talk back to you and explain things to you? Let's have an engagement about that. You can give me a call on 0861-987-000. You can also send us a WhatsApp on 083-303-7093. Never replaced by AI. It's Nyaka Lodi for with our 2:30 headlines.
Power Lunch with Pabi Moloi. Weekdays 12 to 3 p.m.
Well, we're almost at 3 p.m. It's about 25 minutes to go until then. This is still Power Lunch in the meantime. And we're talking in our Tech Tuesday segment about the rise in AI therapy, some of the interesting pointers to think about. And I think so far our overarching kind of war cry